Hi, today the stem cell transplant process, something I went through last year in 2024. Excuse me at times looking at my phone, but there's some prompts I've got on here to remind me what happened on certain days. So what happens with stem cell transplants? Well, first of all, let's look at the process. I had what was called an autologous stem cell transplant, which meant they took the stem cells from my own body and they froze them and then they replaced them in my body after I'd had the high dosage chemotherapy. But before this process, which is known as harvesting the stem cells means collecting them, I had to have some injections for stem cell growth. Okay, and they give you a set of these injections and you take them away and you inject them in your stomach each day. And like I said before, this is to stimulate the growth of the stem cells before they collect them, because obviously they want as many as possible when they're collecting them. So I took these away, and people often say, did you have pain through the stem cell process? No, I didn't really, with the exception of when I was taking the stimulating injections. What happened, I started to get lower back pain after a few days. And I told the nurse in the Christie, I had mine done in the Christie in Manchester, which is a fantastic hospital. I can't praise them enough. And when I told the nurse, I said, I've got quite bad pain in my lower back. It was uncomfortable more than anything during the night. And she said, that's good. And I started laughing. I said, it's good that I've got pain in my lower back and it's uncomfortable of a night. And she said, yeah, it is. She said, because what this shows that the growth factor injections are actually working. What they're doing, they're actually stimulating the growth of stem cells within your bone marrow, and this is what you can feel in your back. So although it was uncomfortable, it was a good sign. It was a sign that the stem cell treatment was actually working. The growth factor to grow the stem cells was actually working. So we'd done that, and then I finally went along as an outpatient, by the way, initially, to have the harvesting. And I'll try and show you a picture of the harvesting machine on this video. It's a big machine, and you're on it for quite a few hours, 4 to 5 hours or something like that during the day. And they put a tube into one arm, and then it goes through this machine, and then it comes out the machine and into the other arm. And what it's doing, it's going through the harvesting process. It's collecting your stem cells. So you put you on this machine. Obviously, you've got to keep your hands pretty much, to the side as the blood goes through this machine and the stem cells are collected or harvested, as it's known. Was this painful? Not at all. I was eating, I was drinking, I was reading a book. I think I even managed my phone at times. So no, it wasn't painful at all. Once they've collected enough stem cells, and this can be, I think mine was only actually 1 day, but some people, they can do it over a number of days, depending on how many stem cells they get on that first day. Mine was either 1 or 2 days. I can't remember at the moment. Let me just see, I haven't made a note on that. No, I haven't. So, but it was either 1 or 2 days. And then I went home and they froze my stem cells in this big container, which again, I'll try and show you a picture of. So then I went back to have the stem cell transplant. Actually, the main thing I'm having here is high dosage chemotherapy to kill the cancer. And this is known as melphalan, what I had. So I went back, again, the NHS put me up in a hotel in Manchester, and for the first week I visited the Christie on an outpatient, as an outpatient. Okay, so the first day I went in, well, the day I arrived, I had a Hickman line fitted around here somewhere, really. And this is so that they can inject stuff into you without having to go into the veins with needles all the time. So the Hickman line was inserted on the very first day I arrived there, and then I went to the hotel after the Hickman line was fixed. Okay, the next day I went back on the Wednesday, and they then give me the high dosage melphalan. And this is quite toxic stuff. This stuff is going to make you sick, believe me. For how long is dependent, it's subjective really, but it will make you sick eventually. When I had the high dose melphalan, on the first day I had no sickness whatsoever. But I was given, let me just check here, I was given anti-sickness tablets, dexamethasone I was given for anti-sickness, and I was given a lot of hydration as well, saline drips for 2.5 hours I was given them. And then when they give me the melphalan, they also give you lolly ices because it can tend to burn your mouth. So they give you lots of these ice lollies that you're eating. I'll show you pictures again of these, of me eating the ice lollies to cool down my mouth and whatever while they're giving you the melphalan. But there was no sickness. I was quite all right. They also at this point are asking me to fill urine bottles to test my kidney function, and I'd filled about 8 bottles even at that point, so my kidney function, touch wood, was okay. So I had the high dosage melphalan, and then I went back to the hotel. The following day, because the high dosage melphalan is going to effectively kill off the neutrophils, they call them. It's going to kill off a lot of healthy blood cells as well as the cancer, hopefully. But it's inevitable that it's going to kill off a lot of the good blood cells. And this is where they transplant the stem cells back into your body so that they'll grow and they'll replenish the good cells that were killed when you took the high dosage melphalan. This takes time. I was told it was like weed killer. You can put weed killer. I can put weed killer out there in my garden today, but it's going to take about a week before it. It's going to take a few days at least before it starts killing off plants and whatever. And the melphalan is the same. I was told to think of it as weed killer. They put it in to kill the cancer. It was going to take about a few days to a week to start working. Okay, so that's what I had the second day. Then I come back after the day after I'd had melphalan, and they'd done the transplant. Again, the transplant was no problem at all. They just brought this big container, and this looked like steam, like electric ice coming out of it. Go. And there was lots of nurses in the room, and I mean lots of nurses, and they were all doing cross checks to check that these were actually my stem cells. The procedure at the Christie was fantastic, excellent staff. I can't praise them enough. And then they basically just on the drip, they put your stem cells back in, no problem at all. Then I went back to the back to the hotel. Okay, the following couple of days, basically, we had a couple of rest days where you'd done nothing but rest, and also some days you had to go and get your bloods checked to the hospital. But about 4 days after having the high dosage melphalan, I started to feel I didn't want anything to eat. I started to feel really nauseous. I wasn't actually sick, but I started to feel in general quite ill. And this is expected. Bear in mind, melphalan's quite toxic stuff. It's there to kill off the cancer primarily, but it's killing off your good blood cells as well, hence the stem cell transplant. So while your good cells, blood cells, are being killed off by the melphalan, the stem cells are beginning to take effect and create new blood cells. Primarily, one of the most important ones are called neutrophils. And as far as I know, these are white blood cells that that are primarily help you. You know, they are your immune system. They give you immunity. They help to fight infections, and it's very important because these go offline. In effect, at this point, you have got no defense against infection, and you will get infections when you go through this process. So the whole team are on hand with drips and everything, because you can't fight an infection yourself. The team are on hand. As soon as your temperature goes up, they're there with different types of drips, and they will do some tests to try and deduce what type of infection you've got, and then they will get the antibiotic and give you that antibiotic via drip to fight the infections during this time that you can't fight them yourself. Okay. A few days after this, what is known as your neutrophils will start to come back online. Okay. They keep taking blood tests, and my neutrophil count was 0. I had no immune system effectively. And then after a few days, there was a slight trace of neutrophils. And then during the next day or two, they really come up. I think it was a count of about 0.2, 0.3 at first. And then they come up to 4 or 5, I think it was. I would just check my phone just to see, did I make any notes on that? No, so regarding the neutrophils coming back online, which was great news. Now, during this period, I had diarrhea. I didn't want anything to eat. I didn't lose as much weight as a lot of people lose. I've heard people losing up to 4 and 5 stone, over a certain period of time. I lost about 1.5 stone, I think, during this process, because I couldn't eat. I didn't want to eat. I felt so nauseous, and the diarrhea was terrible at the time. And they have to do tests on your diarrhea to see if it's infected, because if it's infected, they can't give you anything for diarrhea. They want it to come out. If it's not infected, then they can give you, some medication for it. But that wasn't a nice time. But it wasn't too long. And all in all, when my neutrophils come back up, the doctor said, we're going to let you go home tomorrow. And I think I was in hospital for about 8 days total, which meant even adding the week on, I was only, the week I was in the hotel onto that total number of days, it was only about 15 days all told. And I believe that's one of the shortest periods you can have melphalan and stem cell treatments in. So I was quite lucky. And so then I was released. I went home. And then nothing happens basically for about 3 or 4 months. You let the melphalan and the stem cell treatments take its course and whatever, and you go home. I was tired when I got home. I was tired. I was fatigued. We all know the feeling and whatever. But after a couple of weeks, I did start doing stuff, but I was still very fatigued. I've got to say that. And then you have a bone marrow biopsy, which basically deduces whether you're in remission or not. And as it happened, it also says whether you're standard or high risk for myeloma. Obviously, high risk is more complicated, but they can still treat it. And I'm not too sure. I think I had a bone marrow biopsy before I had the stem cell transplant to deduce whether it was high risk or standard risk, and I was standard risk. This is something you will hear of, so I was very pleased about that. And then I had another biopsy. I think, is it 100 days later or something? I had this other biopsy to determine whether it was in remission or not. And as it happened, I was in a very, very good remission. They couldn't tell. They couldn't find any cancer in my body when they done this test. There's a name for it, something negative. I can't think of it at the moment. But I had no cancer in my body. And now it's 18 months later. And it's not been an easy journey. I went on maintenance therapy, immunotherapy, isatuximab, which is a target therapy, which is very clever also. I believe how this works is that they put it into you, and the isatuximab, if it sees a cancer cell, it attaches itself to it and flags it up to your immune system and says, come and kill me. So it's very, very clever targeted therapy. But I decided to come off it after 8 months because I was so fatigued. I don't know whether the fatigue was down to the stem cell process, the isatuximab. One thing I did get was depression for a while. I never suffer from depression, but because I was so fatigued, I lost interest in almost everything. So it was a bit of a roller coaster ride. You know, the stem cell process itself went fantastic. It done the job. Today, 18 months later, I'm still in remission and I'm feeling a lot better psychologically now. And I will do videos about what I've done about the depression and anxiety, which is a very common side effect of the whole cancer process, as many of you out there will know. So that in a nutshell describes the stem cell process, the stem cell transplant process. I hope you've all found this informative, and please, if you have enjoyed it, please come to my page on Facebook, which is called the Cancer Counsellor. I am actually a counsellor and a trainer of counsellors, as well as having multiple myeloma cancer. Visit the Cancer Counsellor on Facebook, and I will give you some more information over time. Okay, thank you very much and see you soon.